Incas versus Taurusin. Chaos Dwarves and the Vampire Coast. Traditionally a pretty good matchup for the Vampire Coast. Chaos Dwarves rely very heavily on their single entities to win most of the time. Then they got a bunch of buffs, and that's not true anymore. But when I say traditionally, it means across time. Anyway, when you rely on your single entities so heavily, Coast do have some pretty effective artillery against the chariots, and handgun mobs are really good against your flyers and stuff. So it's just not as easy for Chaos Dwarf trains to go doot-doot over an entire enemy team. Then we do have a kind of interesting build. Astrogoth Iron Hand, Good Lord, Flamestorm, and Cascading Fire Cloak. Couple Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders with bows, Orc Laborers, and Goblin Laborer frontline. 2 Bull Centaur Renders. We have a Deathstreak Rocket Launcher and the Skullcracker Dreadquake Mortar Chariot. So going with double artillery to try and outshoot the Coast. On the Coast side, we have a Carronade, which is good. 3 deck gunners, one of which is the Shade Wraith gunners, a couple handgun mobs, Mourn Gulls, including the Night Terrors for some armor piercing, front line of zombie deckhand mobs and pole arms, and then we have Vampire Fleet Captain with Gaze of Nagash and Aranessa with Net. So you can see that this build is well prepared for the Chaos Dwarf single entities, including, honestly, the Skullcracker Dreadquake Mortar mount. A Carronade can get a lot of damage on that, but they don't have 2 or 3 Carronades, so they can get outshot. If the Deathstreak Rocket Launcher and the train both focus on them, they'll get rid of that 1 Carronade before it can effectively take them out. The Coast need to advance as quickly as possible and get their medium-long range guns, the deck gunners, into range, because the long range they are going to lose, as 1 Carronade cannot beat both of these. Very nice Gaze of Nagash. You can definitely see why they brought it in case of those chariot-type mounts, but still good against Bale Tauruses and such. But the Carronade takes an unholy amount of damage from the first volley, and that was just the first volley, so the second one is going to be coming soon for the Dreadquake Mortar, and then the long range threat of the Vampire Coast will be spent. Astrogoth feeling pretty invincible. Not a lot on this roster that can really deal with him super well. The Lampus Revenge can do well if they surround him, but those aren't here, so he's not that worried. He'll take a little poke from the deck gunners, but it's not a big deal. Carronade is crumbling away on its own, and with no healing, the Dreadquake Mortar has moved on to try and take care of the Shade Wraith gunners, just relying on, there we go, the Undead passive to just take care of that for him. Another Overcast Gaze of Nagash, excuse me, will finish off the Deathstreak Rocket Launcher, but we'll see how long it'll take that one to come out. Meanwhile, the deck gunners have gotten in range of Astrogoth. With the hilly-ish terrain of this map, the deck gunners are having a hard time. If you look, they are actually in a bit of a ravine. So, unfortunately, the map does offer a little bit of terrain that the Vampire Coast are not a fan of, so the deck gunners are just going to shoot at Astrogoth, shoot at the Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders, just shoot at something you can, rather than keep walking into melee. As they might have to. So yeah, it's pretty brutal for the Vampire Coast. This is a rough start for them. Shade Wraith gunners take a Dreadquake Mortar shot to the side, but Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders, piss poor leadership while getting debuffed. Oh, they just terror route from the ghosts that they were charging. Full HP and terror routing due to the debuffs from the guns. They do have Discouraged from getting shot by the Shade Wraith gunners. Mourngul's going to blitz through the front line, and it looks like now the Mourngulls are going to have to be the ones to hunt down these trains. In comes another Gaze of Nagash, but this time the Bull Centaur Renders have been moved to block the entire projectile and save the Deathstreak Rocket Launcher. So very good positioning there from the Chaos Dwarves. Nice job, nice job. Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders got onto some of the deck gunners as the battle has gotten spread out. It's easier for them to find these good engagements without the Mourngulls wandering around. The balance of power is dead even, so despite all of the praise I've been giving the Chaos Dwarves, unfortunately, the Skullcracker Dreadquake Mortar just shot a tree. But despite all of that, clearly there have been value trades, and I think it's coming from the Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders have been taking a lot of the brunt of the damage, and they've been pushed off the map for the most part. The front line of the Chaos Dwarves is also just getting easily massacred, and Astrogoth actually is getting poked down very well. I'm suspecting we had a net in play. No. Still full charge on the Spearfisher's net. Has a bit of friendly fire. Not anything that's going to bother the Chaos Dwarves, of course, but yeah, the deck gunner poke, the hand gunner poke of Astrogoth just running around has mattered. So over time, Chaos Dwarves getting a lot of damage on their single entity. Spearfisher's net down on the Skullcracker Dreadquake Mortar. I want to say the Skull Taker. That is going to be problematic. That's a pretty long net in the middle of halberds, lowering its melee defense to 2, but then Morgul's also catch up to it. And if they wrap it just right, it can be really hard for these Chaos Dwarf trains to turn around, and Aranessa also jumps in, so this is a bit of a disaster. Skullcracker gets a Cascading Fire Cloak, and the Spearfisher's Net wears off, so now it's up to 50 melee defense, which is enough to keep it alive as it starts rolling away. Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders with bows jumping into melee just to buy a little bit of time, because the Chaos Dwarfs cannot afford to lose that big, expensive chariot piece. Dreadquake Mortar fires off into the distance. It is shooting at Morgul's with its fire at will, but it won't be enough to stop them as they do get onto the Dastric Rock Launcher. But what will stop them is the Bull Centaur Renders that just noticed them and are turning around. So rear charge from the Bull Centaur Renders will finish off those Morgul's. It's just how much damage can they do to the Dreadquake, the Death Streaker Rocket Launcher before they get taken out. Smacking it with their claws, but then in come the Bull Centaur Renders. Terror Route takes away the Dastric Rock Launcher, does fire one more time. Don't know what it's shooting at exactly. It is single shot towards the Vampire Fleet Captain of Vampires. Vampire Coast actually up on the balance of power, and I honestly would agree. With Aranessa being so healthy, 2 Morgul units being so healthy, a lot of halberds being healthy, I can see why the balance of power is higher for the Vampire Coast. Now I know that Chaos Dwarves can do a lot of damage with their Unbreakable Chariots in the late game. I also know the Dastric Rock Launcher can come back and has a lot of ammunition left, and if those Bull Centaur Renders keep it safe, then it'll be fine. I know all that, but I can definitely see why the balance of power is favoring the coast. Bull Centaur Renders pile in to fight the Night Terrors, but they are going to have to fight on top of zombie halberds, so I don't know if they'll want to stay here for this fight. But they have a second Bull Centaur Render I didn't notice. I mean, I knew it was there at the start of the game, but I kind of assumed it was dead by now. That changes my calculations a little bit. A second Bull Centaur Render is quite a lot. You see the Night Terrors just getting wrecked from that sandwich in. And the Dreadquake Mortar might do more friendly fire than good. Okay, it didn't really hurt anybody that much, so that's okay. But still, Hobgoblin Wolf Raider's not going to enjoy that friendly fire. Aranessa, another Morgul, and a bunch of deckhand mobs. Pole arms are moving in. The Night Terrors continue to fight to the very end. They are still undead after all. And yeah, Skullcracker, Dreadquake Mortar has 1 shot left before it's just a fancy chariot. Dastric Rock Launcher is also back as well. What do we have for Gazes of Nagash, and what are you going to choose to shoot at? Do you shoot at the Death Streaker and take care of it, get rid of it, and it's 13 ammunition? Or do you shoot at the Skullcracker and try and damage that very expensive chariot in the late game? Or do you shoot at Astrogoth, who's already crazy low, but he is a smaller profile, so some of those impacts won't have as much damage as you're expecting? Aranessa still has nets. She has 2 left, which I really, now that that Bull Centaur Render is routed, I want to see her use the Spearfisher's Net on either this Bull Centaur Render that's full health or the Skullcracker as soon as it comes into contact with halberds of any kind. Just net them into halberds and watch the value flow. Really nice Flamestorm here from Astrogoth. It is unfortunately going to kill some of his laborers and Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders, but it's the life. It's the life they chose by being Chaos Dwarf minions. Spearfisher's Net is down on the Skullcracker as soon as it got into those halberds, so it is going to get eaten alive. Net has already worn off, but it did lose a good 2,000 HP and counting. Bull Centaur Renders and Astrogoth trying to get in there, offer a bit of support. Halberd still waddling towards the Death Streaker rocket launcher. The last healthy Morgul, I guess there's 2. I mean, he is healthy and the Night Terrors aren't healthy, but the Night Terrors still around. They're applying Frostbite to this train, trying to keep it in range for now as the other ones fight on top of their halberds against Bull Centaur Renders. Bounce power still 50-50 as the Death Streaker Rock Launcher continues to fire a single shot against the Vampire Fleet Captain, who doesn't have as much value as I'd expect. I think she still has a Gaze of Nagash in the tank, and there it is. Probably the last one of the game for her. She is getting run down by the Skullcracker. 1,400 HP on the Skullcracker. It is taunted. Down 2 melee defense, reduced speed. Vampire Fleet Captain is dead. She's just going to crumble at this point. She can't possibly recover from that one. But the train is getting very low as the Night Terrors put their bodies on the line to get in front of that thing and slow it down for the other Morguls behind it. 800 HP and falling as the rocket launcher continues to fire in, but both the Morguls are almost dead. Aranessa is plenty healthy and has 2 healthy halberds to hang out with in the late game. Skullcracker is going to get a nice charge out. Death Streaker rocket launcher still firing away, still has 9 ammunition, which is quite a lot, and it feels very safe at this point in the game. Do you get a beautiful charge? Oh, it looks like it's going down the side. Oh, it looks like it's going to do some damage. Oh, cranky. Oh, malarkey. That's like 3,000, 4,000-ish damage from the Skullcracker. Dreadquake Mortar. Balance of Power goes very bad for the Vampire Coast as the final Spearfisher's Net is used onto Astrogoth Iron Hand. The Skullcracker is stuck in some halberds, 200 HP and falling. Araness is trying to chase Astrogoth. Maybe, possibly, potentially, if she can kill the Lord, she could rout the orc laborers and stuff, fight the rest of the fight on her halberds. I don't know what she's hoping to do, but she can't catch him. The Robo Man is too fast, so she turns instead against the Bull Centaur Renders. Fights them one last time as they have a Cascading Fire Cloak. Now they are still fighting a halberd foot character in foot halberds. They are not living their best life. The Skullcracker charges straight through the deckhands mobs, does a lot of damage again, but does finally die. Aranus is going to try and group up with the last of her Zombie Pyre deckhand mobs pole arms, but they just can't reform lines before these bulls keep charging straight into them. Other zombies walking towards the Deathstreaker rock launcher. Deathstreaker is slower than them, but it might run away just to buy time for the Bull Centaur Renders to go save it. One does shatter off the map. Araness is trying to chase down the other one. They do have enough speed to get away from her, though. No Spearfisher's Nets left. And that thing only routed once, so yeah, if it routes, it'll rally. It'll be fine. Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders rallying in the distance. Still Orc Laborers over there, too. And the pole arms just continue to try and chase. Getting some pokes in. A couple pickety pokes here and there. District Rock Launcher stops. Does take some damage. Leadership falls a bit, but the charging in friends clear out the halberds and save the rocket launcher. Again, even if it routes, it'll be back, so it's fine. Another Cascading Fire Cloak versus Manan's Luck, so both sides getting 24 melee defense. One side gets more damage, the other side gets ward save, and Astrogoth gets a nasty charge attack in with his Black Hammer of Hashit. The halberd supports are trying to come for Aranessa once again, but they die off. Bounce of Power ships into Army losses territory, and she is not undead, so she will rout. GG. Very good game. In cars, his front line was garbage. Hobgoblin Wolf Raiders did fine. Bull Centaur Raiders did amazing. Deathstreak Rock Launcher and the Dreadquake Mortar both did well. Actually, the Deathstreak Rock Launcher doing better. For Torison, Aranessa did okay, not great. Vampire Caster did amazing. Zombie Pyre Deckhands mobs did pretty well. All things considered, Handgunners did pretty well. Again, all things considered. Deck Gunners, not as great. The terrain really messing with their line of fire. And then Mourngulls were the mass and armor piercing you needed, but just didn't get a lot of value. And the cannon got literally nothing done. GG. Roar. Subscribe, yes, yes.